Learn to be super successful. Subscribe to my channel, Meathead.
A good portion of the millionaires that were made back in the late 70s and early 80s have run through their money. They've pissed through their money. They've lost it all. But are you going to say something?
You should buy gold. You should buy gold.
GOLD, gold?
Yeah, just buy gold instead of losing your money.
No, he's a financial analyst now. He's never made a fucking dime in his life, and now you're talking about shit you don't understand. Okay, so just be quiet about that. That's the theory that the Bitfuck guys are doing now, which is wrong, but, you know, I'm sure I'll live long enough to prove it wrong. But it's not my job to prove these other investment theories wrong. I've already proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that my investment theory is correct. So I'll leave it to others, to pundits, to ghostwriters like yourself, to prove all the other shit wrong. I mean, what I didn't understand 20 years ago, I don't understand 20 days ago, is how the kids, especially now, have so much goddamn time to listen to the blogs, the whatever. I mean, I just don't understand that. If they spend 10% of their time not following all these people and implementing and executing correctly QLA, I mean, it'd be a horse of a different color. But I don't worry about that stuff. I don't worry about the why. I can't help sometimes it getting into my brain, but I only want to know how. I mean, Warren Buffett's investment theory is pretty simple. Most of the big guys' investment theory is pretty simple. And it's been successful over decades for them. The Buffett methodology doesn't necessarily work for everybody else. Buy and hold forever. But he says something very astutely, and then Charlie Munger chimes in. Just because you can buy and sell doesn't mean you should buy and sell. I mean, those are really powerful words. Just because you can buy and sell. He said, and he uses the analogy, he's from Omaha. Do the farmers buy and sell farms? No. They could, but I mean, the liquidity of a big 10,000 acre farm is not the same as the liquidity of owning 10,000 shares of ABC on a stock exchange. It's not. And he says it's wrong, and he says maybe history will prove him right, which I believe it will. Just because you can buy and sell, just because you can have liquidity, is that what you really should have to build generational wealth 10, 20, 30 years from now? Most of the people that invest now, and whatever medium they use, aren't looking 10, 20, 30 years down the road. They're looking for short-term gains. And you've heard me say many, many times, I equate that to a short-term solution to a long-term problem. And over my career, I can say with no reservations or qualifications, wealth is built not on one transaction. Occasionally some guy will hit the lottery, but wealth is not built on a short-term transaction. Wealth is built on one transaction. It's built on a series of transactions. And one of the reasons that 2021 was so good for me personally is I'm involved with a number of you guys, which I'm phasing out of, but I'm involved, and you guys have hit it out of the park. You've hit it out of the park. I mean, big time. And that's all good. I keep this frog here that I got in 2003 from Dan Locke. He emailed me, and he got a hold of me somehow, and he wanted to buy me breakfast, and I don't do breakfast, but he flew from Vancouver to LA, and I was staying in Long Beach. I can't remember why I was staying in Long Beach, and he came to buy me breakfast. And he brought me this gift. It's some kind of Chinese thing. Anyway, it's a frog. And when I saw him 3 years ago in Vancouver when I spoke at his big deal, I had it, and he was very surprised. But he came to me, a pudgy, pimple-faced 22 or 23-year-old. And, of course, he doesn't like that part of the story. And now he's not a pudgy, pimple-faced, you know. Now he's 40, I guess, or whatever he is. But he had tried a number of things, and when we talked about it, you know, I helped him. And then maybe 2004 or 5, he came to the seminar, and then again he came to the seminar about 2010. And but he implemented, not dissimilar to the guys that you've heard here on the webinars, and he doesn't understand that if you do pull the trigger, if you do implement and execute, even in a half-assed manner, how you don't get rich. And he's one of my more successful guys. He's turned to digital products, et cetera, and he's been very successful. And he's got his little ninja army that follow him around. Literally, when you look out to the audience of 2,000 people, this is a slight exaggeration, 1,500 ninjas, literally, that he's gotten rich off of, I might add. But not everybody does that. So I have enough longevity to be able to show, and that's what one of the things the TV guys were interested in. Can you show that this, they didn't say it this way, does this shit really fucking work 25 years ago, 20 years ago, 15 years ago? I said, yeah. I mean, with no qualification, no reservations, I can prove it. Whether they'll testify, like in court, I don't know. But I got enough of them, sure. There's no question about it. Because they were worried about, you know, me being me being a hoax, et cetera, and all that stuff. So after 6 years, we've got a deal. It'll probably take another fucking 6 years to get it on TV. But anyway, the questions, comments? Yes, sir. Did you make another call?
Yeah, I actually made the call, but that's not what's about. What it is about. Next to QLA, I have another goal in life to have as many children as possible, and I would like to have your take on it.
Do you have any kids now?
Yeah. How
many?
7.
Wait.
Well, I will explain. Let me finish.
I want you to explain.
Yeah. So maybe you can also help me to have the quantum leap over there. So I thought, how can I have the most children? So I started donating sperm, but that's taking me for quite some time, and it's not really successful.
So you have 7 kids?
Yes, at least, probably way more.
No. Okay, when you say that, this isn't through rape or shit like that.
No, it's through sperm donation.
Okay, you use sperm donations.
Yes,
okay.
Exactly.
Okay, but you're not raising these kids.
No, of course not.
Okay.
Luckily.
But there's a big difference. Yeah. There's a big difference between raising kids and being responsible, which it's one of the greatest responsibilities, maybe the greatest responsibility you can have. It's easy to create a kid, as we all know, and but to raise the little shits. And I have 3, which I'm happy about. Of course, our daughter would say, "You got to be happy, Dad. We're here." So, and there's a lot of truth in that. But if my father had taken more responsibility as a father for me and not a leader of me, I wouldn't be here. So I have mixed emotions. And most of the parenting has nothing to do with leadership now. Most parenting has, you have the kid, slappy happy, blah, 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 and sometimes the wife is the real parent. And most wives are nourishing, loving, which a little bit of that is good, but not too much. Otherwise, you turn out, unfortunately, like most of you. And if you think back in American terms, in the 1850s or 60s, women used to have kids while they were plowing the field. They'd stop to squat the kid out, and they're plowing the field. That's a far cry from today, right? And the moms were tough, because you had to be tough, otherwise you couldn't exist. I.e., the kids saw what their moms and dads did, not what they told them to do. And as Leanne Carling said, our children look at what they hear every morning, starting with you, and how we work all the time. That's normally, for the kids that come to the seminar, not their lifestyle. The better parents, or even the worst parents, want their kids to have a better life than they did. I've talked to some really shitty parents, but they want a better life. Are they willing to sacrifice their own parental years for them to have that better life? Almost always no. They don't qualify it by saying, I'm not going to do this to have a better kid. I mean, a kid that has more choices, but their lifestyle they're not willing to change. The real example is the crack whore mom, the heroin. I have got an Australian kid up here. His dad did drug deals so he could live 3 or 4 months, and then he started doing drug deals again. And his mother was a crack cocaine whore, okay, for real. And he left home when he was 13 or 14, and he became successful in spite of his parents, okay? His parents, all he knew is he wanted to be the absolute opposite of what he saw at home. And he was very successful. Came to the seminar a couple of times with his partner, not a physical partner, but business partner. And they've done very well. 10, 15 years ago, they were in the top, under 20, under 25, under 30, and when they were about in their late 20s, they had about $170 some million between them. But they did it in spite. Okay, it's a lot easier not to have your kids do it in spite of you, but a lot easier for them to do it in concert, not with you in business, but because of the role model that you show. And that's why I preach the book, the Spock book, so heavily and strongly. But the question you asked is, how do you have a lot of kids?
Yeah, how would you do it?
Well, I did it the old-fashioned way. When I figured out I was good-looking, and I didn't know, because your mates don't tell you you're good-looking, do they? But when the girls all gravitated to me, and there's a picture on social media about this, I figured out, well, fuck. I ought to be getting fucked, and I haven't been fucked. So I was a virgin until I was 17, and then I figured it out, and so I told this in social media. There was a theory that came out that male organs could only produce between 32 and 35,000 orgasms. That's it. I was worried. I went to doctors. That's a myth, The sperm lessens, but, if you stay healthy, you can have orgasms till your 70s and 80s. And I can attest to that. That's true. But in those days, I thought I was going to run out of that shit. So I did it the old-fashioned way. I fucked a lot of people, girls, exclusively girls. And so I had sexual intercourse with a lot of people. And to the best of my knowledge, I have not fathered, or nobody's accused me of fathering, any others than the 3 I have. But I would just, I don't like the artificial thing. Not because there's anything wrong with it. But I like to be more active in the act. A lot of people, come here. We had a guy at the last seminar who was a sex addict. He has sex 6, 7, 8, 9 times a day. He happens to be fairly well off, so he's got money to buy, hookers and shit like that. And he's married. And his wife says, no mas. A couple times a day is it, kid. Because it's not as pleasant for the other opposite sex as you might think. You're getting your nuts off in. So I would do it the old-fashioned way. I'm not a sperm bank guy. But I do know a lot of rich guys that have done that. And but you're supposed to not be able to track the sperm where it goes.
It depends on the country.
Okay, well, you know more about it than I do. So and I would in my 70s, I'd like to know who I fathered. In my 20s, 30s, and 40s, I didn't give a fuck. I would think, although I never thought about it. But it depends upon the country. But as Peter said, he's got 2 more kids, And a whole bunch of the high-performance guys have more kids because your sperms, your little 300,000 or 400,000 sperms that are trying to fight their way to the egg, have more energy. Just as you saw Peter with more energy. Just as you saw vis-a-vis the webinar that we showed a few days ago about Peter, it's not the same person. It's not even close. Any other questions? In the back, yes, sir.
In your 7 steps for super success,
Yep.
there's a sub-bullet, beyond common sense. Could you elaborate on that?
Okay, common sense is common or sense to the average person. We're not average. It's like you will do things, for some of you have had some success already, that is beyond the pale to your family. You're already successful. Why do you want more? You know, buying a big house or buying a couple of cars or whatever is not success. Your contemporaries, family contemporaries, believe that it's like the famous line in the movie Rudy, when Rudy Rudiger's father is telling him he's on a bus, sitting on a bus, and he's taking a bus to Notre Dame. Rudigers don't go to Notre Dame. Rudigers don't play football at Notre Dame. Blah blah blah. And in even though they may not articulate it, your family, Schultzes don't, become this. Peñas don't do this. Shitbag, whatever your name is. And even though they may not articulate it, but they've articulated through their actions, and you've seen them while you're growing up. Again, my dad, the people laugh, and some believe it, some don't. I really give a shit. My dad's only goal was for me to keep me alive, till I reached the age of reason. And he said, I don't know if that was 20, 25, 30, or ever. The last time I got arrested on a serious offense, I was 31 years old, and I was rich already. So, but that kind of literally sobered me up. I haven't driven since. Although Sally loves buying me cars, but I find it much more comfortable to sleep and or work in the back seat. Occasionally, I sit in the front seat. On long trips, just the driver and I sit in the front seat. But the common sense is linked to the average guy. Even the worst mentee or the worst QLA bot I have is not average. And I've got some real dipshits, but they're not average. Otherwise, you wouldn't take the money to spend the time, and that's why I only give the Castle seminar. And the only reason I gave the day-long seminar at Heathrow is that was going to be initially my sayonara, my swan song. And I decided in the last 3 or 4 weeks, for several reasons, which I've already articulated, to keep working. But as Jim Newman taught me back in 1974, my challenge was, I was already at the top of the heap, allegedly, for Hispanic, Latino, whatever. And I didn't feel like at the top of the heap, even though I had made, some $50 million is not a lot of money, but 40 years ago it was a lot of money. And in the Hispanic community, it was a lot of money. And as soon as he unleashed me, so to speak, to fight in the big arena of what I call the white arena, I ate him alive. The rest is history. The string of poverty, remember, poverty rubs off. The reason why, in my judgment, black people, Puerto Rican people, Hispanic people live in the same neighborhoods is because they would rather be a big fish in a small pond. I've got 4 or 5 billionaire mentees, 2 of which are German, that don't want to go to America because they think their expertise wouldn't be as significant battling against New York guys. And I believe, because I know them, that they're wrong. But now they're in their 40s, got a lot of money, G5 planes, etc. So they subconsciously say, why take the risk? Why take the risk? Other questions? Yes, sir.
Ms. Peña, it's not a question, just say thank you to you.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Tony and Shah's already made the speech, and whatever they said, I 100% agree with that. But one thing I would like to mention is that you always say, I am very ruthless and I'm very strong and I don't believe in humanity. But I found you are the most kind person on this planet.
Well, thank you. But you're right.
You just say it.
I don't like those kind of accolades.
Yeah, you just say it, but actually inside, you are a very kind person. And I'm very grateful that all this week we stayed here in UN Cell.
Thank you.
Actually looked us like a family. One thing I would like to take your permission, basically me and Shah's, one of the projects we're doing, we're building 49 houses, brand new one. They are not the type we were discussing before. They are really nice
houses. He doesn't want to say the word.
And they are actually in the village, and it's a beautiful village. And with your permission, I've spoken to Shaz earlier on. If we can name that one, Peña Street.
Oh, thank you very much. And in return, I'd like to go there. Not dedicate. I don't know the right word, but I'd like to go there and be part of the naming process, and that's great. And I'm very appreciative. And I do appreciate you guys that go out and do good shit. I do, And even though when I was younger, I make sure I distanced myself because I don't want to be a pretend goody two shoes. And almost all the money we give is not under the table, illegal, but not in our name, etc. I've become more or less connected with St. Teresa. Several years ago, I said I put my money on the bitch when she was just Mother Teresa. I'd like to take that back, but that's what I said, so I'm sure that will come up in the election, okay? But she was the fastest saint in the last several hundred years in the Catholic Church to be, in less than 20 years. She became a saint. The nuns of the St. Teresa organization know that she was a less than kind person if you weren't on board with her. And she treated people arguably like shit, which is more or less my MO, okay? And they said she was the fastest saint ever to be, anointed or whatever the right word is. And they say, Mr. Peña, you're on a rocket ship to they don't say that. You're on a rocket ship to heaven. You're going to be a saint sooner than St. Teresa. Well, that's a big stretch. It's coming from holy people like the Cardinal, so I'm not going to argue with them. But from their lips to somebody's ears, so I know I do a lot of good stuff that I don't get publicity for. I would have rather gotten publicity for the finest financial engineering transaction in the 80s. I didn't get anything. So I'm switching from helping you guys, I'm not leaving you astray, to politics because I know I can do a lot of good. Because I'm not afraid of criticism. I'm not afraid. I don't need anybody's money for a lot of different reasons. God willing, I'm going to do like Trump did, but better. And I'm not going to stick my foot in my fucking mouth as much as Donald did. Again, forgive me, Donald, because I know you. But I have a gift, and I know it. But thank you very much. But when I see guys like you, Abdul, and even though I labeled you with the moniker Bin Laden, affectionately, not in a bad way, I've helped a lot of people. I know that. I'm sitting across Denzel Jr. here, but he and I know what he was 7-8 years ago, whenever it was, and now he looks like a fucking Denzel Washington. And I get off on that, and I have thousands and thousands and thousands of people that tens of thousands, arguably millions that I've helped. But I want, with all those accolades, I want you guys to go out. Because you're only as good as your last prize fight. You're only as good as your last win. And even though I have wins that from, 2021, but 2022 is upon us, and I want you to go out and win. And Sally will tell you, I get off on it. I mean, I just do. And and I'm not financially connected. I've made the price for entry, the skin in the game that you paid, for some of you high. I don't think it's so high, but for some of you high. And but again, remember, I used to do this for free. That model didn't fucking work. I thought I had a lot of money. I'm going to be beneficent, like fucking, I don't know what I thought. But it just didn't work. My results were abysmal. My results were better than industry averages, but they were abysmal. I mean, and nobody else talks about the money created of any of the gurus for a reason. Because they haven't. Now you've heard, let's see, 300, 600, at least more than $1 billion created by just the guys that you listen to. More than that. Just, and I just hope and pray, guys, if you listen to this, that you don't dry up on me in the next few years, and meaning that they refuse to talk about it. But Peter has a whole other following. And these other guys and the few gals have their own followings because, a lot of people can relate to Peter and talk to Peter, although he doesn't talk to that many people, and people that I've trained easier than me. Of course, I don't promote. I don't want to talk to you. I don't answer your phone call. I don't answer your email. But we get a lot of traffic considering I never answer anybody. And invariably, the first blush of them trying to contact me is, I hope Mr. Peña reads this. I do read it. It's just I don't answer it. But thank you very much. I appreciate it very greatly. And I'm going to come down and see you guys. And not unannounced. In companies I used to own, I'd come unannounced. Or I'd come 3 days early to see. But I'm not going to walk into your cash and carry without... I'll come down on a 50% sale day, and I'll load up my shopping bag. But I appreciate that very much. And I see, even though we have different ethnicities out here, I don't see color. I've never seen color, other than your Elvis Presley hairdo. But I don't see color. I'm told James is black. I'm told that, and so. But other than that, he knows he's known me a lot of years, and But I don't, I see the Germans though, and they even sit together. Now you're sitting together by accident, right?
Yes, we sit together.
It's hard to believe, fate. Other question, please. Okay, you let me off the hook early tonight. Guys, go out and rip it. I mean, you've got the tools. You're in the only position that you should be, and that's in control. You don't have to use your own money, and not just be part of my legacy, be part of your own legacy. A couple of you have made some money, and that's great, but I mean, you've only scratched the surface. You have. Oh, fuck. People say, when they're my age, I wish I was 50 again, or I wish I was 40 again. I don't wish any of that. Because the 40, 50, 60 were, even though I did a lot of good, weren't that easy. And so I'm glad I'm 76, and I'm looking forward to the next 15, 20 years, and still being active. But you guys are where you should be. Some of you could have been here earlier. Some of you were here earlier, but haven't accomplished what you would have liked to accomplish. That means you're here because you're still hungry. And that is the real benchmark. stay hungry. And it's harder to stay hungry when you accumulate a lot of money, or what's your perception of a lot of money, and assets and things. I mean, and some of you are just at the beginning of that, accumulating stuff. And when we decided, Sally and I, when I was turned 60, to get rid of everything, almost everything, except this place, we had no idea how much shit we had. We had never listed it on, and it took us 7 years to get rid of all it. And it wasn't shit, but I call everything shit. To get rid of the shit, it took us 7 fucking years. We thought we could do it in 36 months. And and that combined with, we got more active with our philanthropy, and most of which is devoted to religious entities. And full disclosure, most of that is Catholic oriented. And Sally's not a Catholic, but it's Catholic oriented, because the Catholic Church says, give us your children the first 7 or 8 years. Pre-Vatican Council 65, before most of you were born, a couple of you were born, they said, in the homily, in Latin, they said, words to the effect, give us your children the first 7 years, and we will build a church that will last forever, more or less. Okay? And meaning or translating that self-esteem is built the first 7 or 8 years. So the church knew if we had their hand up your butt, I'm surprised the Pope's bonnet's not coming out my mouth, because the church has got their hand so far up my fucking ass. And even though I'm saying that not in a derogatory way, but I'm saying that to validate, they had me the first, actually, 11, 12 years, because I wanted to be a priest. And even though I decided not to be a priest, because I knew that some of the mortal sins I had already broken, let alone what I would have done as a young man. But they control my thought process still, to this day. To this day. Not all of which is good, by the way, but they control. But most of the things that most religions that are legitimate religions have pretty good precepts. Not all, but pretty good precepts, pretty good foundations. And so I'm not attesting to my success, as the nuns and the cardinals and the bishops would say, to my faith. But anyway, thank you very much for your time. Travel safely, and go get them, kids. Thank you very much. Thank you. Go get them.